Here we are, The Boys Season 2, and I just finished the last episode last night, and wow. This is a spoiler review. I'm gonna dive into this season. I have a lot of notes, and let's just get right into this. Overall, I thought the season was excellent. I'd say it's about on par with Season 1, but if I had to pick one, I think Season 2 actually slightly edges out Season 1. But let's just get into my problems first. And I do have some problems, but you have to remember, if you hear my problems, it's going to seem like I didn't like this season. But when you have a 8-episode, 8-hour TV show, there's going to be a lot more problems than you get in an average 2-hour movie. So let's just get right into this. One, I wanted more Komiko. She didn't get a lot to do this season. Well, in the first 3 episodes, it was very focused on, I don't know what episode her brother was introduced, but that was a very interesting storyline. And then once her brother died, she just kind of went into hibernation for the rest of the season, and then occasionally came out, especially like in the last episode where she was a real rock star. But besides that, I just wanted a lot more out of her. This next complaint is a problem I have a lot that a lot of TV shows do, and it bothered me here. There is tons of cliffhangers at an end of one episode, and then the very next episode, that's the main reason why you go to watch the next episode, they downplay it and just move on. The season did it 2 or 3 times, and I've seen a lot of shows do it, and it bothers me every time, and The Boys doesn't get a pass. Okay, next complaint. Shawn Ashmore, he played Lamplighter. He gave a great performance, he had a compelling character, he was in 2 episodes, and then he just killed himself. I wanted more of him. He was really good in the role. He was a great actor. I just wanted more of his character, and he just died. Another problem. It sounds like I hate this season. Believe me, I love this season. There's a lot of standing around in public for most wanted people. There's a lot of them arguing about VOT problems in the middle of like Times Square or whatever. I think it's in New York. They're like I don't think they're ever in Times Square. Maybe once or twice, but for my example, I don't know if that happened, but there's a lot of like at the very beginning of the season, they're on TV, and Butcher is well known. They literally made a parody, not a parody. They made a recreation on 2020, I believe, about William Butcher, and he just walks around town wearing the same exact outfit. Most Wanted, really? It just bothered me. Other complaint is I know they wanted to throw in this church. In this church that they throw in, I don't remember what it's called. It is interesting, but they just kind of threw in the Deep and A-Train in there. A-Train didn't have a lot to do this season, and the Deep, I expected a lot more out of him considering what season 1 kind of built up, because the first couple episodes they set up for the Deep to have an arc. They set up that he's looking at his gills, he's crying or whatever, and then at the end of at the end of episode 8, he's still the same jerk that we saw from the from season 1, and it just felt like it was a waste of time. I don't know why they did that if he's still gonna be a jerk. I still don't buy his redemption, and it still bothers me. Okay. Other problem. There's not a lot of teamwork in this season, but when it does happen, it's the best the show gets, and because there's a lot of side quests. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I know we're seeing a lot of side quests. It's still mediocre, but I know the show would be better if the whole group was together. And that didn't really happen till the last episode. And I know they want that satisfying part, but they had to understand that you know that they're holding back, and they know that it can be better. But like I said, when they get together, when the boys or whatever, Starlight or our protagonist gets in there, it's great. And it's just a lot of episodes where it doesn't really do that. Okay, and my last complaint is actually on the last episode, which I actually did love as my favorite episode of the show ever. But I noticed something. I was about to go to sleep, and I was thinking about the episode because that's how good it is. And then I realized something, and I ran out of bed, wrote this down, and went back. And the climax to the season is a lot like the climax from the first. It's a Homelander and Butcher standoffish scene with a dead love interest that has a child that Homelander has a little situation with. But this time it's like the roles are flipped, but it was very similar, and I noticed that about I'm like, this is the same as I'm like, does every season have to end with a Butcher versus Homelander situation? But like I said, I'm not complaining about the scene. The scene itself was great. It's just it was very similar, but the scene was executed well, and that was quite a shocking scene of everything that happened within those moments. Now let's just get into the pros. I know I went on for 5 minutes about stuff I didn't like. Now I feel awful. But let's just get into the pros. This is my kind of show. Of course, it's like I don't want you to go see all the blood and guts. It's like evolved comic book television because it takes in real world situation like politics, and it doesn't hold back, and it takes what you think that they would like be like versus what they would be like. Iron Man, he's like, I'm gonna save the people, and then Thor's like, doing this for the greater good, and I'm all good, and blah blah blah. And realistically, this movie takes the realistic route. All they are about is all they're about is staying on the 7 and making sure their points are up. And and stuff like that is just like, it's a new take, it's something different, it's superheroes, it's my cup of tea. And yeah, Black Noir this season, he didn't do anything in the last episode, but the action sequences he did in the season were jaw-dropping and really, really fun. He was really entertaining this season, and he was quite funny at sometimes. The Homelander and Ryan dynamic, or Dadlander, that was actually a quite interesting and fun to watch dynamic. I could have watched a whole episode of that, because especially in the last episode where I'm not calling Homelander a good dad because obviously he was a terrible dad, but it was interesting the writing where how Homelander related to Ryan when he got nervous in public for the first time, and he didn't hesitate just taking him away and taking him to his cabin, where then Stormfront taught him about white power or whatever. And so that was, yeah, Stormfront's not a great, I mean, Homelander or Stormfront are great parents, but there's some really good things you wouldn't think about that Homelander could relate to with Ryan. Speaking of Stormfront, wow. I don't remember who played her, but what a performance. What a great addition. I was never happier to see anyone die in the show than I was to see her die. I wanted her to be a season thing because, like, I hated her that much. But the actress did a fantastic job. She really knocked it out of the park, and Stormfront was Stormfront, and she was Stormfront. I don't really know how to describe it, but she was Stormfront, and I'm glad she's dead. This season does a lot of nods and winks to film nerds, because there's one point where one of my favorite moments of the whole season is when they're reading a script for Seven, for the Seven, which is kind of like a like the same font of Man of Steel. They were trying to, and it said like Dawn of something, and it was trying to be like Zack Snyder like, and where Stormfront said something like she mentioned Michael Bay, and I was dying. I loved it. That was probably one of my favorite moments of the season, just because it was just so written for me. Yeah, this season definitely dives into Butcher's backstory a lot. We learn a lot about him slowly throughout the season, like his aunt who's a drug dealer, his brother that killed himself, his dad that was harsh on him, and he saw his soft and warm and loving mother, surprisingly. And all that was great to learn about him. And what I like about Witcher so much is that he doesn't care if he's good or bad. He just does what he feels like he needs to do, because in that moment where when Becca was dying and she said, "He's good, Ryan's good, please don't." I had no idea what Butcher was going to do, because in the average TV show, he would have just, any main character, that would have just changed their minds automatically. You felt Butcher's hesitation. And he would have done it if Homelander never showed up. And that's what makes it so great about Butcher. The action in the season was movie level. Especially in the last episode, I was on the edge of my seat, because every single time I saw Stormfront laser someone, or not laser, but like lightning someone, I was terrified because I had no idea how bad she was doing it, how bad it would hurt humans versus heroes, and it was quite terrifying. And it was probably the most nerve-wracking action I've seen all year. Yeah, and that's what makes this show so scary, because it switches the perspective. This is what all of, I don't know, Lex Luthor's henchmen felt like when Batman was raiding through the warehouse. And I was like, now I feel that fear a lot more than ever. And it definitely makes you even get a different stance on comic book films in general. Just thinking about all these, not innocent people, but people that are just doing their job, and then Superman or something shows up and just kills them because their person is bad and they know what they're doing is bad. But some people are not always have the choice to do stuff like that. And that definitely adds a lot of... This show makes you think of comic book movies and shows in a whole different perspective, and that's what's one of the best things about this show. This season, the whole entire season was unpredictable. I had no idea what they were going to do at certain moments, because there's times where the show, when it's supposed to go right, it goes left. When it's supposed to go left, it goes right. And sometimes when it's supposed to go left, you think the opposite of what you're about to think, and it goes the way that you were originally thinking. And this is why I love this show so much. It's so amazing. And there's jaw-dropping moments in the last episode, especially when Ryan lasered Stormfront. The fact that we were holding back the camera, I kind of knew that he got Becca or Rebecca or whoever or whatever her name was, and I almost cried. I'm not gonna lie. Also, one problem I forgot to say was Maeve or Mev or whatever. She was annoying this season. She was annoying last season, but she was even more annoying this season. Of course, with her lesbian story arc, like, that was really interesting. The best thing about that was the lasagna. That cracked me up. But overall, within the last episode, her arc was so obvious, because she's like, go, I don't want to be around you guys, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, okay, she'll be back at the climax of this episode, and that's exactly what happened. So her arc was predictable. She had interesting stuff happen to her, but she was very dislikable at the same time. That was my only problem. I actually forgot to put on my notes. But yeah, I loved The Boys Season 2. I know it sounds like I didn't like it from my problems, but like I said, this show gives me a whole different perspective on the MCU, on every single comic book media I've ever watched. And that's what makes it so great. I can't wait for Season 3. They do some great setups with that, By the way, I forgot to mention, there's a lot of head exploding, and I love that, by the way. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what they do with that. Plus, I think there's going to be a little bit of time jump, because when a show ends with a happy ending, that always means there's going to be a time jump, because if there wasn't going to be a time jump, there would have been a huge cliffhanger saying, "Oh no, what's going to happen to them?" But everyone went home. Their names got off the most wanted list, and I know that there has to be a time jump, and I'm excited to see how long this time jump is going to be. How old is Ryan going to be? Is he going to be moody and just kill everyone by accident, or not by accident? Is he going to be in his 20s? We don't know. I'm very excited to see what they're going to go with next for this third season. And yeah, like I said, I really like Season 2. I'm going to give Season 2 an 8.9 out of 10. I give the first season an 8.5 just to put it in perspective. I would have, if it wasn't for that last episode, I would have given the season overall an 8.5, so I thought it was exactly the same. But I thought that last episode of The Boys season 2 was so great. It just really bumped it up that much for me. And yeah, that is The Boys season 2. Comment down below what you guys thought. I'm very happy to have my comments back, because for a while people weren't allowed to comment on my channel anymore because it was a child creator. But now, since I'm not making child content, people are able to comment now. So I'm very excited about that. So yeah, anyways, like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.